Hi, I'm back. I know this setup's pretty weird. I'm like up against a bed frame, but this is the best that I could do for now. Debating on putting like something cooler in the background, just like, you know, hit me with suggestions in the comments or something. Like it has to be something that's like cool, like subtly there, but like not so much that it like distracts from the actual review. Love this suggestion. My only thing is it would take a long time to draw out. And you know, some people might think I'm being serious. But basically in this video I'm going to be updating you on everything, like everything, that I've listened to in 2018 but haven't reviewed. Most of these albums, actually the vast majority of these albums I haven't listened to that much, minimum of 2 times. Each, some of them got up to like 5 or 6 or even 7 because I like thought I was going to review them but then didn't end up having time. But yeah, most of them, like, it's still kind of a first impression, so like let me know what I'm missing with any of these releases, if I should like give something more time, but these are like my initial thoughts. And although the title of this video is not that I didn't like it, it's that I'm in college, it is true that the majority of these weren't more than like a 7 for me. There were a few exceptions, but there were reasons why I didn't like review the 8s that I do have on this list. Either they were a metal release, because I just like don't feel qualified to review metal releases in general. That'll hopefully change at some point, but for now, or they were just like by artists that I wasn't formerly aware of, and I tend to just like instinctually prioritize artists that I am familiar with because I feel more qualified to talk to them and they're like, you know, I'm anticipating a new release from them. So yeah, with that being said, I'm just gonna get right into it. Again, these are very much first impressions, pretty rough. Don't take anything I say in this video too seriously. Sorry if the lighting just like switched, I had to turn on a light, but anywho, let's start with The House by Porches. Yes, we are going all the way back to the beginning. Yeah, this is fucking boring. Nothing too special. I mean, we're looking at some pretty polished, bouncy, almost like housey sort of beats, very auto-tuned vocals too, which I guess were like trying to add to the emotion of the album, but like, yeah, I gave this thing a solid like 3 or 4 listens and just every single time it all flew right over my head. Like, I can't really take anything away from this album. So I'm just gonna like slap a 5 on it. Ruins My First Aid Kit. I mean, it's an acceptable singer-songwriter kind of country-esque record. Vocal melody is pretty good, but the lyrics still strike me as pretty average, and just to be honest, there isn't much that carries this for me, but if you are really into this genre, it might hit you a little bit better, but yeah, I'm gonna slap a 5 on this thing as well. November by Sir. I mean, there's a reason why no one's talking about this anymore. Sonic Palette, I guess, is pretty enjoyable, more or less front to back, but the lyrics are like pretty generic, and yeah, it's all just strikes me as one of those really watered down, forgettable contemporary R&B records. Gonna give this a 5.5. I've listened to Ion by Portal several times since it came out, and I think I'm finally to the point where I get what's so good about it. I think my last listen of it pretty much solidified that. I like that this is kind of just like in and out pretty quick, doesn't overstay its welcome at all, and there is a lot of detail in each track. The instrumentation is killer, it's kind of psychedelic almost. I think the only thing that I'm not completely sold on is like the very muddy vocal effect. But besides that, like, not much to complain about. Again, don't know a lot about metal. Seriously, like, recommend me metal to listen to that's come out this year. I think I've listened to like 3 or 4 albums so far. But yeah, I'm just not well versed on it, and that really should change. Blood by Rye, wow, this totally reads as wasted potential to me. Like, the first few tracks, I was like, okay, this has kind of like almost a subtle elegance to it. Like, there's a lot of heart in the vocal, there's a lot of emotion wrapped up in these songs. Kind of reminds me almost of like a Perfume Genius vocal, but you know, minus the sweet orchestral production. It's pretty stripped of that. But I could see like the beauty and the simplicity of this album for a few tracks, but then after that, dear God, it just gets so formulaic and boring. Yeah, damn, this is probably like a 4, dude. I just can't. Crush EP by Raven Lene. I do get why people enjoy this to an extent, and I think that the most it has going for it probably is the eclectic vocal deliveries. But a lot of times other than that, it does kind of read, at least to me, mostly like your average contemporary R&B, neo-soul sort of release. I mean, here and there were like a few cool song topics that she introduces, like on Computer Love or whatever. But yeah, overall, there's not really enough substance to this thing to like carry it. There were a few good songs, but because it's already so short, it's like, you know. So I'm gonna just give it a 6. And then Rock Island by Palm. Palm is an interesting band to me, but not one with like lasting stay power. For some reason, they do work in a lot of odd time signatures, which I think is pretty cool, but especially in a release like this, the compositions are still pretty samey across the board, and I don't know, I just feel like after like 2 or 3, I don't want to say 2 or 3, maybe like 4 or 5 songs, you pretty much get everything that the project actually has to offer. I mean, I guess it's like a 5.5 to me. It's like a cool idea. Room Inside the World by Ott, this has grown on me, it has. And I haven't listened to it a lot, probably 2 or 3 times, but literally right before I sat down to like make this video, I listened to it one more time, and I think that this is like pretty freaking good. Solid post-punk release. It's pretty like detached and cold and just, I don't know, it has this like darkness to it. And the instrumentation isn't like, you know, it's not gonna like blow you out of the water, but I don't know, I think it like kind of works with the overall mood of like the lyrics and everything. I don't know, like I just feel like everything's pretty in harmony with each other on this album. And I really enjoyed it, and especially the second half, actually. A lot of these lines have grown on me quite a bit, and I actually think that I'm going to come back to it. So I guess I'm gonna give it a 7, maybe erring on the side of a 7.5. Sorry, 7.5. I'll have to like continue giving it more tries, but we'll see how it places in my year-end list. Typically I talk about everything over a 7, so yeah, moving on. Fever by Black Milk. I actually quite enjoyed the production of this album. I thought it was really pleasant. The beats are pretty like relaxed and woozy, kind of jazzy too, and while like the actual rapping and lyrics aren't much above average, I still think like it's pretty conceptually like cohesive album, and it's definitely enjoyable for the duration that it's on, so I'm gonna give it a 6.5. And then 3-3 by, I just realized I have no idea how to pronounce this producer's name. The feature list is packed, so that's good. But none of the beats struck me as that good, like really at all. Like I can't even like tell you like a few songs that I felt like, oh, like that was really cool, like I want to hear that again. Like they did like none. But again, like some of the verses were pretty good because like how can they not be when you have like MCs this talented on the record. But yeah, overall feeling like a 5 on this thing. Honestly, didn't really leave much impact on me at all. Superorganism. So I was really close to reviewing this actually. Like I wrote out like most of the notes, and then I just like decided last second it wasn't even worth it. Overall, I mean, I feel like everything going on at the core of this album is pretty average, and they're just like pretty desperately trying to make up for it with like random samples that just come in and out and don't really serve any actual purpose on the album, and a lot of bass. Not that it's not like, you know, a fun record, cool concept behind it too, but just like sonically not something that I care about. Pretty disappointing, especially considering some of the singles were like great leading up to this. But yeah, All Nerve by the Breeders, dear god, they're getting even worse. Fucking 3.5. All at Once by Screaming Females. Yeah, I liked this album. I think this is pretty like hard not to like. It's just pretty like inoffensive, enjoyable album the whole way through. Kind of garage punky, reminds me of like Sleater Kinney. The vocals have a lot of range and attitude too, which is helpful. But the album is pretty like lengthy for not switching much up sonically. Not that like like most of the songs when isolated just by themselves are pretty like multi-dimensional, cool compositions, but like when like jumbled together as an album, I don't really like, I just prefer albums that sort of introduce more ideas throughout than this did. So yeah, I'm between like a 6.5 and a 7. Um, but yeah, moving on, Clean by Soccer Mommy. Surprised me how much I enjoyed this. Soccer Mommy reminds me a lot of Snail Mail. Yeah, I wouldn't overthink it. It's actually pretty refreshing how straight to the point and intimate and vulnerable it is. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'll give it a 7. And then White as Relic, Irrealis Mood of Montreal. You know, based on like the way that these songs are laid out, you'd think that they would be these like epic, just like grandiose trips with a bunch of like cool switch ups and different ideas packed into it. But everything going on in this album feels like pretty straightforward to me, at least. It's almost like they're trying to convince me that it's a bigger deal than it is. But with that being said, Paranoid Intervals Body Dysmorphia is a fucking jam. Dead Magic by Anna von Hauswolf. This is a very unique sound palette for sure, pretty mysterious and chilling, and every song is very well made. It's one of those albums with like really long songs, and I think it's only like 5 songs long. But for some reason, no matter how many times I listen to this thing, I never like want to come back to it. And I've given it a ton of listens, and this is one of those albums that I've listened to like more, I think probably like 4 or 5 times, but like for some reason it just like never breaks into like personal connection for me, so I guess I'm gonna give it a 7.5. Moving on, Bobby Tarantino 2 by Logic. There's a reason why no one's talked about this since it came out, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. There's a Riot Going On by Ola Tango. I have talked about this briefly at some point in I think it was a singles update. Yeah, some songs have very chilling and atmospheric soundscapes with a lot of nice textures that are very pleasant when they're on, and if I were to just like isolate those, singles could make for a really nice EP, but overall there's so much of nothing on this album. Like there's so many tracks to throw away, so many. This is so bloated, and it's really annoying, and it never develops into anything that's like genuinely compelling or remarkable. So I'm gonna give it a 5. Question Mark by X. This is almost nothing. Again, I mean, the production here is pretty lazy most of the time. The moody guitars are not helping it at all whatsoever. So many moments just feel super lazy and just fucking slapped together. A lot of half-baked ideas here. I think the only thing that I really take away from it is like on a track like Floor 555, like that level of aggression I almost feel like he could do something with. Like kind of reminds me of like JPEG Mafia a little bit, because he's actually good at like conveying emotion in his vocal in that track, but dear God, like no lyrical moment in this entire thing gripped me at all, even though his whole thing is like, you know, feel bad for me, I'm so sad. But yeah, maybe he would actually be good going down like that route, or like at least make a project that interests me like a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, I guess this thing's like a 3 to me. New Material by Preoccupations. I honestly, like, to be completely honest with you, I never want to listen to this again. Super fucking muddy production. They're trying to go down a cold wave route now, but seriously, this is so far off from the creativity that was shown in their last project. Like, this is just so fucking boring and unappealing, honestly, to listen to me at least. So I think it's a 4. My Dear Melancholy. This reminds me of like something I said in my J. Cole review, because I actually like was considering reviewing this project, and like this phrase totally applies to this project too. I feel like when I listen to this album, I'm scrolling through a Post Malone parody account. Straight up, like a lot of these lyrics come across as really cliche and difficult to digest because of that. But in a few vocal performances, it's almost like I can like feel what he's saying. at least, so that kind of helps for sure. And I do think it, like, kind of admirable that he is just, like, bluntly, like, laying everything out like this at the same time. And I still think Try Me is, like, a great song, and I understand why people say, like, this is kind of a return to his old style, like, trilogy sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, these remind me of, like, maybe, like, B-sides from that era with more blunt lyrics, like, even more. So yeah, I mean, I think it's like a 6.5 because it is definitely a very sweetly produced project at the same time. Like, I really enjoy the style of, like, synth pop R&B, so yeah. Moving on, Czarface meets Metalface by Czarface and MF Doom. So here's my thing with MF Doom, like, fucking amazing lyricist and pretty good rapper. But it's been, like, difficult for me to, like, fall in love with any of his stuff, which is actually a lot of why I was gonna do a best to worst, because I know if I listened to that much more MF Doom, it would probably, like, that would probably change at least a little bit. But yeah, I mean, like, for the most part, his dry, like, vocal and kind of the production that's just, like, it's never hit me that hard. Usually is made up for in, like, how incredible and, like, clever his bars can be. But considering the fact that that's not as much here on this album, there isn't that much to carry it for me. At least it's, like, conceptually pretty cohesive. But yeah, on the whole, I'm gonna give it like a 6. Golden Hour by Kacey Musgraves. I like this a little bit better every time I listen to it. It's like this blend of synth pop and country and soft rock, and Kacey's vocal melodies are pretty strong here. She has a lot of range in her vocal, and a lot of the lyrics are pretty blunt, but they're relatable, they're enjoyable to listen to. Overall, it's a pretty pleasant set of tunes, but doesn't strike me as anything that's gonna be that memorable in the long run, so it's probably like a 6.5 for me. And then moving on, Invasion of Privacy by Carnegie. I was, like, really ready to give this a 7, honestly, because I just think that Cardi B has so much personality, and it totally shows here, and the trap style of production definitely fits her delivery, like, dead on. And yeah, I mean, this is a pretty, like, relatable, kind of sassy little record. It reminds me of, like, Cupcake a little bit, but a little bit better done, in my opinion. But it sucks that this record kind of, like, falls off in quality in the second half, because I feel like I can't even logically give it a 7. I feel like it's probably a 6.5, but still, this is pretty interesting, and she definitely, like, she pulled through more than I thought she would. But I actually wish that the Migos feature was left off. Anywho, Vacation in Hell, Flatbush Zombies. I guess this is a solid set of, like, fun bangers, but it's pretty fucking long, and yeah, it's fine to throw on if you know, just need something in the background or you're having fun with your friends, but, like, it's so fucking bloated. And I think that's as nice as I can be. I'm just gonna leave it at that. 6.5. Isolation by Kali Uchis. Really enjoyed the Spanish parts of these. Overall, very sensual, sweet, hooky R&B project. Like, not quite what I wanted it to be, but almost there. Probably like a 7 to me. And then moving on, A Girl Cried Red, Princess Nokia. I mean, I appreciate her attempt to experiment a little bit, but it's really hard to get past how god-awful these vocals are. And the production's really underwhelming, so it doesn't really make up for it, although it's not, like, offensively bad or anything. So yeah, I guess it's like a 3 or 4 to me. And then The Sciences by Sleep. Listen, my ass who knows nothing about metal thinks that this is most of what you could want in a metal project. You got heavy use of distortion and feedback, lots of subtle changes, flows from one idea to the next really effectively, killer instrumentation. And yeah, I'm going to have to return to this more to decide, you know, my final thoughts before the year-end list, but 7.5 to 8 probably for me. Care for Me by Saba. I think it's interesting how this guy is able to be so blunt about depression and just kind of, like, lay it all out, refer to it a little bit casually, but still not really make it come across as cliche, because that's, like, how it is when you live with it. And also, he definitely has a strong sense of narrative in his lyrics, like Prom King. Whew, man, that is one hell of a song. Definitely growing on me for sure. Pretty personal, intimate project. Feels pretty down to earth, jazzy style of production as well that I'm digging. Definitely works with the lyrics. So yeah, I think it's probably like an 8 to me as of right now. And Your Queen is a wet... fuck, I can't even talk. Your Queen is a Reptile by Sons of Kemet. This is some really nice Afro jazz with some pretty like sinister vocals and a lot of nice horn solos in this thing, a lot of congas and snares used to its benefit. Just enough versatility song to song, some slightly more down-tempo moments too. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably like an 8. Really glad I checked this thing out because I haven't listened to a lot of Afro jazz, but yeah, it's a really enjoyable project. And then May Your Kindness Remain by Courtney Marie Andrews. Just listened to this yesterday, again, actually, and damn, lyrically this thing is pristine. I can't even deny. This isn't really my type of music. I'm not really a singer-songwriter person, but this is pretty much everything I could want out of the singer-songwriter project, minus, like, you know, slightly more interesting instrumentation, but like, whatever, so I think it's probably like a 7. The Scars of Man on the Once Nameless Wilderness by Panopticon. Listen, again, my ass knows nothing about black metal, but I can say for certain that the folk parts and the black metal parts are pretty like separate from each other here. Like they don't even really try to blend them. But still, I did enjoy this project all the way through. Like every track isolated by itself is like pretty solid to me. So I think it's probably like a 6.5. Time Will Die and Love Will Bury It by Rollo Tomasi. Yes, hi Buffalo staple, thank you for this. The way that this project combines emo and black metal is just like pretty pristine. It's what Panopticon wishes they could have done with black metal and folk. And the lyrics are insane throughout the entire thing, and you know, some songs struck me better than others for sure, but I still think front to back, there's not a bad song in this album, so it's probably like an 8. Bark Your Head Off Dog by Hop Along. Sugary as fuck vocal performances, but they're actually very good, very peppy instrumentation as well, and pretty abstract, open to interpretation lyrics. Not much to complain about on my end, but it doesn't strike me as better than like a 7.5. So yeah, I think that's all the albums I have to cover here, and please know that there are more projects that have come out within like the past few weeks, and I'm just gonna like move over to the next update. I don't know how often I'm gonna do these considering I'm covering like 5.5 months worth of material here, but yeah, albums that will be covered in the next include these. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what I need to listen to more, what I got wrong, and yeah, I'll see you next time.